www.WCAB59AM. Northland Cable Channel subscribers on Channel 5, good morning. Those of you listening to me, thank you. My name is Gilbert Carmona. I am an enrolled agent. Todd, what is an enrolled agent? Close. A person that is enrolled with the IRS to represent taxpayers. There's only 3 of us that can represent taxpayers: enrolled agents, CPAs, and tax attorneys. Now, I always say tax attorneys, and my attorney friends say, well, all attorneys. Well, really, you wouldn't want to go to an attorney to represent you in front of the IRS unless he told you he was a tax attorney. It is a very special field, and usually tax attorneys, right on their business card, it says tax attorney. Hopefully you'll never need one. There's only 43,000 of us enrolled agents, and we're enrolled with the IRS. We represent taxpayers in all 50 states and anywhere in the world. I actually have clients all around the world, Todd. Brazil, Mexico, China. I had clients in Germany, but now they moved back. So I got to take Germany off my list. If you need to get me, you can come. This is a live program. If you have a question, you can call here or you can send me an email. You can call the radio station at 287-335. What's that last number, Todd? The phone's ringing. It's already ringing off the hook. 3356. You can call here. You can call me on my cell phone, 828-289-9300. You can send me a text. You can email me at gilbert@gilbertcarmona.com. You can ask me a question. If some questions are pretty complicated, I can't answer them on the air, but I will try. If I can't, I will try to get back to you if you leave me an email address or a telephone number, or you can call me during the week. So, last night, Todd, we were engaged in the ritualistic covering of the peonies at midnight in March. We have never had to cover the peonies in March. Usually, end of March. Usually it's April. But we were engaged at midnight because my wife can't sleep, knowing that the peonies might be freezing. It's something keeps her up, so I'm the one that has to go out and cover the peonies. I mean, I'm shocked. My flower bed, all my bulbs are up. What are we going to do? They're all gone. I guess I'll just have to replant. I'm going to talk this morning. I want to talk about a few things. Those of you that have small businesses, I want to talk to you about if you get audited. What do you do? I'm seeing a lot more. I don't want to say I'm seeing more audit activity because that's really not. I can't say that there's a spike in audits. Maybe more people are calling me with their audit problems. Let me say it that way. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about IRS in the news. This is the time of the year when the IRS always publishes their list of tax preparers and tax accountants that they have arrested to put the fear of God in everybody that's thinking about committing tax fraud. And IRS, we'll talk a little about the IRS website and the 6 myths of tax season. Todd, there's 6 of them. 6 myths of tax season. And one of them is that, I'll give you a hint, one of them involves earned income tax credit. And that's a big one. But let me talk about audits. And I'm going to try to stay focused on this because this is a broad topic. There are many types of audits. Typically, small business people, and I said, so that I kind of said for small business people to listen because typically there's a wider net cast for them than there are for just the individual. Typically, Todd, we have a technical problem. We have no internet. Our world is dying when we don't have any internet. That's okay. It'll come back, I'm sure. Maybe the internet's frozen. Maybe we just need to cover it up. Put a blanket on it. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to blame it on Russia yet. It'll be starting back up in a minute. I mean, it's unbelievable. You're lost without it. You're lost without it. All your notes are gone. Everything is gone. And I don't know why I have notes, because my wife tells me you never stick to them anyway. Why bother staying up writing notes? Don't stay up late writing notes. You should be out covering my peonies. So the small business people have a wider net cast around them for audits, and they tend to use the word audit very as meaning a broad thing. There's a workman's comp audit that has nothing to do with the IRS. That has nothing to do with anybody except your insurance company in the state of North Carolina. That's where you're audited for your hours to make sure that you're declaring the right number of hours, because workman's comp, as those of you that pay it know, is based on the number of man hours that worked, because your rate is based on so many. You pay so many, whether it's $8, $9, $10, $15, whatever your rate is, per $100 of payroll. And that's how you're billed, and that's how it happens. So you've got that kind of audit. Then you have unemployment. The North Carolina Employment Securities Commission may audit you for your payroll to make sure that your workers are being properly classified, that you have, you're not calling everybody, and I've talked about this quite a bit, that not everybody is listed as a 1099 subcontractor when in fact they are employees. Now the IRS will get involved in that at some point. They do their own test of whether you have employees or not. And for those of you that don't know how this works, a lot of businesses, to get around paying their share of payroll tax, because when you work for a company and you get a W-2, that W-2 comes to you and you see you have federal withholding, state withholding, you have Social Security withholding, Medicare withholding. What happens is that, they call that FICA, your FICA withholding. What happens is that your employer has to match that number, not the federal, not the state, just the FICA. So if your employer, which is 7.15% right now, 7.56 is the number I use. So that tax is actually 15.1%, 15.12%. When you're self-employed, you pay. You, the self-employed person, sole proprietors, know this. You pay that full 15+%. When you work for somebody else, they pay half. You pay the other half. How that all happened, I don't know, but that's just how it happened. That's how we've come to know this thing. So what a lot of business owners will do to try to not pay that half, because that can be a huge number. You throw that into the mix with workman's comp at $8 to $15 per 100, and unemployment, which it starts at 2.2%. If you have no unemployment, it goes down to 1.2%. If you've had a lot of layoffs, or a lot of people have been laid off at one time because you had whatever problem, that thing could spike up to, over 5%, that's a big number. So small businesses, typically small businesses, well, I've seen some big businesses do it too, try to avoid and save that money and just save the whole paperwork of tracking it and filing it and sending money to the government every quarter or every month or every 2 weeks if you're big enough. It's based on your dollar amount. What they've tried to do is classify all the employees as contract labor. You're a contractor. Well, the IRS has a lot to say about that, and there's rules, and they call it the tests, T-E-S-T-S, tests. They call it that, and the truth of the matter is very few people that I have to do with would pass any of those tests. Most of the people that they classify as contract labor are in fact employees. So the Employment Securities Commission and the IRS will do those spot audits and check for that. Then you have North Carolina, which will do an audit for sales tax. They'll audit your sales tax. They do that by looking at your records, your sales, and how much you paid, either quarterly or monthly. Again, or you could be on a different schedule if your dollar amounts warrant it. And they're looking at where you claim personal use purchases, tax-exempt purchases, tax-exempt sales that you sold to people claiming to be resellers. They may come to you with the tax ID number. You sell them product. You don't charge them sales tax. They now are supposed to claim that sales tax. That way the sales tax isn't charged multiple times to the end consumer. So they'll audit you for that. And then there's the IRS audit for everything else. Now, the IRS has a lot of different audits themselves. They could be auditing just compliance. Are you reporting the things you're supposed to be reporting? They could be auditing a specific item. You know, this deduction you have is pretty out there. Can you explain it? So a couple of things I see in audits. Boy, the questions are just coming. Good. Keep sending them. I'll look at them at the break. I'm trying to be focused, Todd. Notice? Can you feel the focus? Well, auditing it's a big topic. It's just a big topic. And what got me on it was, I'm going to get to what got me on it in a minute. I'll tell a story of an audit in a minute. So a lot of audits are random because people say they'll get an audit notice, and it could be a mail-in audit where they just want you to mail them the receipts or mail them your proof or mail them whatever or drop it off at an office. They don't necessarily want to schedule a meeting. I've had a number of those. I actually had one recently with North Carolina. I say recently, it was actually last year, with North Carolina, where they went back. They wanted 3 years of the man's business returns. They did an audit for expenses. They didn't care about the income. All they cared about was the expenses. They wanted all the business expenses. They wanted receipts for all the business expenses for 3 years, which I didn't. Usually, most of the audits I'm involved with are 1 year, so this one kind of threw me a little. I wasn't expecting a 3-year audit, and it was just, send it to me. You can send me these receipts. You can scan them. You can just give me a spreadsheet with them, and I will. This is the auditor talking to me. He said, you can mail them to me, send me a spreadsheet with them, and I will randomly pick a certain amount of them, and you can send me copies of those receipts. And of course, we passed that audit, no problem, because the man kept meticulous records. Because you know what, Todd? I'm his accountant. So we had the records, we had the backup. There was no problem. But a lot of these audits are random. People get a letter and they say to me, what did you do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did we do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. You literally won the audit lottery. The computer picked you. Rarely have I been involved in an audit where you were specifically flagged for something. And maybe I just haven't been around long enough. I've only been doing this for 15 years, and I've been working as an enrolled agent for 7 years. So, I mean, I haven't, when I have 25 years under my belt, I'll have seen a lot more. But right now, I have not seen where they saw, like a Willie Nelson case, where they came after him for his $16 million he offshored in some island and claimed it as a tax deduction. That I have not had yet. All of my audits have been random. Even my largest audit that I ever had with a high-level IRS CPA who came and did an on-site 3-day audit that we were there, even that was a random audit that the computer just picked them just cause. And they have to disclose that. They're supposed to tell you why they're there. They just don't knock on the door and say, we want to look at your books. We want to take all the money out of your bank account. They don't do that. Even though you can find many stories on the internet saying that is not the case. I have never had that be the case. Everybody that I've ever had that has come to me, because that's never happened to any of my clients, but anybody that's ever come to me that is at that level of a problem has either ignored the IRS or did not take the audit seriously. So we're going to go ahead and take the break. And when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about most of the audit work that we do on the back end, meaning after you've gotten that audit notice, could be avoided if you just do some things on the front end. And I'm going to talk about those front-end things in a minute. Let's take a break. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes right here, WCAB 590 AM. I want to tell you about a little-known Rutherford County gem, Integrity Marble and Granite, located at 287 Shiloh Road in Forest City. They are the premier stone fabrication company in the western North Carolina region. They specialize in granite, marble, and natural stone, offering complete design and installation. Their design center and Kohler showroom features vanities, decorative accessories, bathroom, and kitchen fixtures. You do not have to go to Charlotte or Asheville for this kind of quality. We have it right here in Forest City. Stop in their showroom and browse their beautiful displays, or you can call 828-247-8801 for a free quote. You can also go to their website, www.integritymarblegranite.com, and look at the pictures and see samples of their available materials. Now, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes, and they will give you $100 off any sink purchase. That's Integrity Marble and Granite.
What can I say about Cafe at the Mall, Cafe to Go, and 10 North Trade Cafe Bakery that can do them justice? The cakes, fresh baked breads, sandwiches, and salads, everything is delicious and perfect. Whether it's sit-down dining, lunch on the run, or catering for any occasion, Cafe at the Mall, Cafe to Go, or 10 North Trade Cafe Bakery is the place to go. Stop in at Cafe at the Mall, Cafe to Go, and 10 North Trade Cafe Bakery and mention Gilbert Talks Taxes and get a free cranberry oatmeal cookie, the official cookie of Gilbert Talks Taxes.
Hi there, this is Kimberly, and I'm here to tell you about Peterson's Auto Service and Detail Shop. As a woman, I'm often apprehensive about taking my car to a dirty service garage. But you can be assured that Peterson's, located at 478 Butler Road, Forest City, has an incredibly clean and safe environment where you get high-quality service at a great price. Peterson's was voted Rutherford County's best auto service 3 years in a row. So take your car to Peterson's for brakes, oil change, North Carolina inspection, tire rotation, headlight lens restoration, scratch removal, and meticulous auto detailing. That's Peterson's at 478 Butler Road, Forest City. You can call him for an appointment at 245-8889. Mention you heard Kimberly on WCAB 590 AM, and Peterson will give you $20 off a full detail or $5 off your next North Carolina inspection. Peterson's Auto Service and Detail Shop, a place I feel comfortable going to.
Anyway, you're live. We are. We're back on the air. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes right here, WCAB 590 AM. That totally caught us off guard. We were here rigorously going through my notes. That's rigorously going through my notes. Working. We work during the breaks. We don't just sit here and talk. So, Todd, did I tell them how they can find me? They can call me at 828-289-9300. You guys did jump right in there. Well, I had a lot to say, and I got a lot to say about this auditing business. My office, by the way, if you should happen to come by and want to see me and talk about this audit subject some more, if you're a small business person, my office is at 113 Whitesides Road, right here next to Southern Baptist Church in Rutherfordton. I've also got an office in Tryon, Polk County, at 226 South Trade Street, the beautiful Art Deco building. Now that office, we don't staff. It is by appointment only. I'm usually there Tuesdays and Thursdays. Christy is there. Allison is there. We kind of all see our clients there, but that is not, that office is more by appointments. If you just need to drop things off or you want to get me, you can call me here. You can send me an email at gilbert@gilbertcarmona.com. Got a couple of questions, but I'm going to answer those another time. But if you have any questions, please keep them coming. Keep them coming. Okay, so audits. Now, as an enrolled agent, I can represent you in an audit, obviously. The only thing I cannot represent you, a taxpayer in, is when if I don't want to say when, I have yet to have a case go to tax court. If it goes to tax court. Tax cases are held in a special court called tax court. And the judges are tax experts. They're professionals in taxation. That's all they do. This taxation is really serious business. And that is why let me back up a little bit, because it is tax season right now. We're all preparing tax returns. We all prepare tax returns. And yes, I do a basic tax return. Please bring me a basic tax return. Right about now, I'd love to see one. Because all the people that are the, 1 or 2 W-2s, most of those have already come and gone. Now we're getting into the thick of it with business tax returns. And the complicated stuff is what we start seeing come across our desk now. People that have been waiting and have been putting their records together. Anybody that's got to wait till April has a complicated tax return. Oh, yeah. And a lot of times it's not their fault. They're waiting for documents. They're waiting for 1099s. They're waiting for brokerage statements. They're waiting for other people, things that are tough. Now, this year, and I'm going to get back to audits here in a minute, this year, partnership returns are due March 15th, right along with 1120S's. They are due March 15th. Every year before, partnership returns were due April 15th, which really, this is better because the partnership return generates a document called a K1 that every partner gets a K1. And then a lot of people will invest in trusts, REITs, real estate investment trusts, or oil trusts. They don't realize they're actually joining a partnership. There may be 1 million partners, literally 1 million partners, and you will have 1/1,000,000th of a share of a real estate investment trust. But if that real estate investment trust owns trillions of dollars of real estate, you could get a pretty hefty K1. Then people aren't aware of that. They don't realize that, but that's how that's reported to the IRS. So having partnerships due March 15th is actually a really good idea. I'm glad the IRS did it. They've done a terrible job of advertising it. Yesterday, Todd, just yesterday, I was speaking to a paralegal at a pretty large attorney's office. She's a paralegal with that practice. She does trusts and estates, and I mentioned to her that I may not be able to help her with her problem that she wants me to look at till after March 15th because I've got a lot of partnership tax returns that are due and they're my priority. She said, oh, partnership returns aren't due till April 15th. I know, I've got a partnership. And I said, wait a minute, you're a paralegal at an attorney's office and you don't know that partnerships are due the 15th. So I told her the story of how this year they moved it up. She not abruptly, she did say goodbye, hung up with me and got her CPA on the phone because she hadn't even started pulling documents together yet. And she's got to get her partnership filed. And she didn't know. And she said, well, when did I didn't hear anything about it. I said, well, they did not do a very good job of advertising it. But partnership returns are due the 15th this year. Now, let me get back to audits. Let me stay focused, Todd. Let's stay focused. So you are a small business and you've got a letter saying from whoever that you're being audited. What I see happen to people that come to me, like the man that came to me, I've got a client that wants me to handle their audit. They are not clients of mine. They want to be clients of mine, and I'm really weighing this out whether I want them to be a client. But I've gotten a lot of phone calls about audits this week. And I don't know that there's a spike in audits, or maybe more people are just calling me. But actually, this audit's been going on for 1.5 years, and his CPA, who's in Charlotte, keeps telling him it's going to be okay, and he keeps getting letters from the IRS telling him it's not going to be okay, wanting more information and this and that and the other thing. And his case is so typical because what I saw happen with his is he just didn't save his records. He didn't save his receipts. He didn't keep his logs. He made a lot of notes, gave them to the CPA, and pretty much forgot about it. Didn't keep any of the records. Everything's at his CPA's office. He's got nothing. And now the IRS is asking him for these things, and he doesn't have them. Or what he's got is just so sporadic. if you just do right, you know the paperwork you've got to do, just keep a copy of everything. Keep it in a file. It's that simple. The biggest problem I see right now is people didn't keep these records. They didn't bother writing it down. They made a payment. Yeah, it's in my checkbook somewhere. And now you got to go back 2 years. Because in this man's case, he's being audited for 2014. Now, who remembers what they did in 2014? I mean, I know people that, I had a man the other day who moved. He couldn't give me his address from 2013. He couldn't remember it. So who remembers? So the best advice, and this is so simple. Those of you that work with me know how I do. You bring me all your stuff. I look at it. Typically, people walk through the door. They've got a Bi-Lo bag or a Walmart bag full of receipts. The whole way to my office, they're praying that somewhere in that bag I will find a refund for them, or at least not have them owe too much. They drop it off. When you get it back from me, you get it back from me all neatly put away, stapled, coordinated by their topic, whatever the topic is, whatever that expense was for, whether it was income or expense, what it was for, utilities, whether it was depreciated, capitalized, whatever we did with it, you'll get it all back. You get your spreadsheet with what it was, and you get your tax return stapled together in a nice little book so that the pages don't come flying out. That's why I do that. It's in a little book in order, so you can go back and look through it and see it. You'll get all that in a few envelopes, big manila envelopes and file folders. It just depends how much it is. If it's so much, I'll put it in one of those cardboard boxes that you buy at Staples. They have them at Walmart. They're like $2. Buy a few of those. And just put the whole year in there. Label it 2015, 2014, 2016. And just stick it in your eave, stick it in your office, stick it in your crawl space, wherever you keep these things, where they're going to be dry and safe. And forget about it. And then when you get audited, there it is. The scripture I have is in Deuteronomy, where God says to the people, if you do good, it will go well with you. So this isn't a matter of, this isn't this advanced accounting. Just save the stuff. If you've got logs and you've written them down, don't throw them out. Just put them away. If you just take that little extra step and you save everything and you put it away, when the audit happens, we can just go back and get it. Most of the audit, we're wasting huge amounts of time, and this is costing you money because we bill by the hour for an audit. And anybody that tells you, an audit's going to cost you a couple of $100 is lying to you, because they are. It's not going to be a couple of $100. Not if you're dealing with a professional. And if you're being audited, you better get a professional. If you're a small business, now if you're an individual, that's different. If you're an individual and they just want to spot check your W-2, they want to spot check some information, one of the big things I see is donors, tithers, especially real tithers, biblical tithers, 10% tithers. The IRS just doesn't understand tithers. They just don't. They don't understand why somebody would give 10% of their income to their church. Well, because where do you start? I've tried explaining it to them, and I've tried showing them Malachi, because they're like, well, why do people do that? They just assume it's a tax dodge, so they want to see proof of that. They want to see your tithing letter, your receipts, your checks. That's a big one. Medical expenses is another one. Again, they want to see those receipts. Just save them, file them, put them away, and leave them put away. People ask me, and this gets back to how long should I save my records? There is no law, by the way, that says you have to save your records at all. There is no rule, and anybody says the IRS says 3 years, they're lying. The IRS doesn't say anything. What the IRS says is, we can audit you for 3 years, we need your records. So you're going to want to keep those records. You can scan and put them on your computer, you just have to be able to print them. Because the IRS will want hard copies. They don't want PDFs. The IRS does not email. They just don't, unless you're dealing at a very high level with an agent and it's a one-on-one thing. But even then, they don't want emails. They want paper copies. You can fax, or you can just throw it in an envelope and overnight. I overnight a lot to them. It's the easiest way to do it. And it's the fastest way. They get it. They get it the next day. They get it in 2 days, and we keep the ball moving. The worst thing that they hate, and I'm guilty of it. Okay, I am not blaming anybody because things happen. The worst thing that they hate is when the ball stops rolling and something gets cold. They really want to get it off their plate. So knowing that, you want to give them what they want, and you want to give it to them now and move forward. I've got an audit going on right now. It's a compliance audit, which compliance audit just means the man wants to make sure that all the right things got put in the right boxes, because the person had a lot of unreimbursed employee expenses, and they had a small business. They ran out of the house. They were 1099 employee, and they just had a lot of stuff all over the road on the tax return. So they were flagged for a compliance audit to make sure they were putting everything in the right boxes. They weren't even looking at, it wasn't even about the dollar amounts. Like, hey, you claimed $10,000 in meals and expenses. Why? It wasn't even that. The guy didn't even care about that. He just wanted to make sure that was all meals and expenses. That was all travel. That was all office expense. That's all he was doing. Well, the people moved. The receipts were, and I'm not exaggerating, in 6 different places. We found a box of receipts at the daughter's house in a box labeled cat food. So how did receipts get labeled cat food? I don't know. But the daughter called up and said, do you need these? And it was literally 3 years of receipts. The other receipts were in storage, other receipts were in a desk drawer, and some other receipts were in a spare room. She called it her junk room. Nothing in a labeled box. They were just there. So huge expense, huge waste of time, just because on the front end they didn't save their receipts, they didn't properly label them and put them away. This is the biggest problem I see in an audit. Let's take a break, Todd, and let's come back and let's talk IRS in the news. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes right here, WCAB 590 AM.
Suffering from numbness in your feet, leg cramping, pain when you walk, difficulty sleeping from leg and foot discomfort? Well, you need to see Dr. Jerry Gross at Foot and Ankle Center of the Carolinas. Your feet don't have to hurt. Call 245-6405 today. A good sign is good business. Make your business stand out with a professional sign from DS Signs and Graphics. Successful companies all over the Carolinas are trusting Alex at DS Signs and Graphics. He has the artistic ability to present your company's image in the best light. Not only display signs, but DS Signs and Graphics can customize banners of all sizes. And if you need magnetic signs or window and vehicle lettering, call on DS Signs and Graphics today. They offer a full line of signs and graphics for any event. 3D, sandblasted, storefront, and monument signs are part of the complete selection of quality signage. Professional signs and banners to fit any budget. Let your business stand out. Call DS Signs and Graphics today. That phone number is 286-4900. Or stop by the sign shop located on Main Street in downtown Spindale. And check the website for more suggestions at dssignsandgraphics.com.
We are back. That time we had the international Morse code signal, the call for help right here. Gilbert Talks Taxes, because as we all know, taxation with representation has not been such a good idea either. If you need to get me, my telephone number is 828-289-9300. You can email me, gilbert@gilbertcarmona.com. If you have any audit questions, please feel free to call me. Now, this is kind of interesting. I'm not focused now, Todd. I'm getting off on a rabbit trail. But this is interesting. I've had a farmer with a working farm come to me this week, new client, made the appointment a few weeks ago, but he met with him this week. He said farmers have referred him to me. Farmers. And I went back through my records, and I do quite a few farms. I didn't realize it. You just work, and they're, to me a farm is just like any other business. It just has its few quirks, and there's some special tax rules and regulations that apply to farmers, and they get certain deductions that normal people don't get, non-farmer, non-agricultural people don't get, and there's some things you need to know with credits. But I didn't realize I've got such a little niche with farmers, and I really appreciate all of you that have come. That really means a lot to me, and thank you for referring me. He said they've spoke very highly of me, and thank you very much. And see, that's the way niches are. I hate these tax practices that claim to have a niche, and you ask them what their experience is, and they may have taken a workshop in it or something, and therefore, no, you learn most of this stuff by actually doing it. And that's how I've built this practice, is doing it, getting out there and getting dirty with it. Now, with that said, let me say one last thing about audits, and then I am going to move on. I was in an audit with an auditor, and we were talking about, the subject came up about these businesses that advertise that you can audit-proof your business. Folks, that is a myth. You cannot audit-proof your business. How do you audit-proof something when it happens randomly? You're randomly picked. So, no. And those workshops that charge money for you to come, and they will teach you how to audit-proof your business or how to keep the IRS at bay. She told me a story. Now, she'd been around for a while. Been with the IRS a while. She was a CPA. Really good. I enjoyed working with her. She was very professional. My wife and I sat in. We had a 3-day audit with her. 8 hours a day. So she was telling me a story that back in the day, one of the multi-level marketing companies, I won't mention their name, at their convention had a class called How to Keep the IRS from Knocking on Your Door. Audit-proofing your business. So what does the IRS do? But they sent an agent to that workshop so they could learn how to keep the IRS away from your door. And what it did is it now painted a bullseye on everybody that was involved with this business, because they were doing these, really, they were just inappropriate things under the guise of keeping the IRS away. Again, I get back to the scripture in Deuteronomy. If you do right, it will go well with you. So if you do right, it will go well with you. That's a promise from God. So just do it, do the right things. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to take advantage of tax deductions that are there for you. I get people in the other ditch, and I had just had one recently. He started a business, and to buy product for his business, he had to drive to New York about once a week for the first, 4 or 5 months of the business. He was driving to New York, getting product, bringing it back down here, because the product that he needed to make his product wasn't available locally, and it was just faster, quicker, and cheaper for him to go pick it up in his van and drive back down. Well, driving to New York and back every week racked up a lot of miles. And at mileage, as those of you know, is 54 cents a mile. You're allowed. I mean, the man put 30,000 miles on his vehicle that year doing this. Legitimate. He had his records. He had his logs. He stayed at a hotel. So he had the hotel record. He had the invoice when he went there and purchased what he purchased. And that he physically went and purchased it and brought it back. I mean, in worst case scenario in an audit, we could have somebody from that business testify that, yes, this man came once a week or more to buy product, which usually doesn't get that far. That's kind of rare. But we had records. And he said, well, I don't want to put all that on my tax return because I've never had that many miles before. I don't want it to be a red flag. No, that doesn't work that way. It's not red flags. If you had that many miles legitimately, it's a legitimate deduction. It's a huge deduction. It's a $15,000 deduction at 54 cents a mile for him. I can't remember, but it was a lot of money. It was 30+ thousand miles. So it was about $15,000, maybe even 16 that we had on there. And he said, well, I don't want it to be a red flag. I just don't want to get in trouble with the IRS. Now you're in the other ditch. If it's legitimate, we can prove it. Let's do it. If you can't prove it, think twice, Because 3 years from now, who's going to remember what you said or what you did or what you put on there? Whatever you put on there, let's have our backup, let's save it, and let's put it away. That's really, if you want to call something audit-proofing your business, that's how you do it on the front end. You're ready for an audit on the front end. And I always think that way. I'm always thinking audit. So Todd, how am I doing on staying focused?
Of course I could.
We need a focus meter. You're not doing so good.
I'm focused.
Me, I'm doing great this morning. I feel so good just staying on task. I can't believe it. Now, the IRS, let's talk about this for right before the break. Let me shift gears a little bit. There's some myths going around. One of the myths is that all refunds were being held. That is a lie. All refunds were not being held. The only refunds that were held by law, they were all held. Processing of those refunds did not even begin until February 15th. What were refunds that involved earned income tax credit, child tax credit, additional child tax credit. If those three credits if you were getting a refund because of those three credits, your tax return, along with everybody else's, was held for processing until February 15th. Now, they processed them pretty quick. There was a huge, as our president says, a huge drop on the 22nd and the 23rd of refunds. It must have been just a huge cash injection into our economy. They dropped who knows how many billions of dollars. I know we had just a lot come through our office. So the reason that happened is the IRS is trying to fight tax fraud. And I've said it for years. Tax fraud, identity theft, tax fraud. I'm sorry, let me be clear. Not just tax fraud, identity theft, tax fraud. They're trying to fight that. And they are doing it by holding this back. And I've said it for years. The only way the IRS is going to be able to get on top of this is by pushing that back and giving them time to verify. That way there will not be an incentive for people to do this. Because typically what happens is the first tax return that gets filed, with those Social Security numbers and dates of birth on that tax return get paid. So you see this with husband and wives both claiming a divorced ex-husbands and wives filing individual tax returns claiming the same child. And they both feel they have a right to claim that child for whatever reason. They haven't made an agreement, they're just fighting, they're just recently divorced, whatever. They want the money. So the first one to get it through usually gets it. So the IRS is trying to stop that. And they're trying to stop that by pushing it back and getting all the players on board. And I'm predicting that, I'm saying it now, this is going to be the way they're going to do business going forward. Why do I say that? Because it appears to have worked. Tax filings were down through the middle of February by over 35%. Through the end of February, tax filings are down by 11%. So this is working. Hawaii has put a 16-week freeze on all refunds. They're going to investigate every single one. They're not just going to spot check. Last year, Alabama, South Carolina, and a few other states froze refunds. One state froze them till March 1st. They also reported decreased fraudulent filings, decreased duplicate filings, and fewer tax refunds going to the wrong people. So I'm really thinking this is going to become normal. People are going to have to change their way of thinking. People that are waiting for that refund to come by the second week of February, the first week of February, or even the end of January, if filing season starts early enough, where we've had it start on the 19th and 20th, there are people that have gotten their refunds by the last day, by January 31st, February 1st. That's got to get out of your thinking. Because people budget for it. They spend the money in December or November or October counting on that refund. That refund may not be coming now till March or April. I've got several that still haven't gotten their refunds, and I've called the IRS because they say to wait 4 weeks. I've called the IRS, and the IRS has said we didn't even start processing that tax return until February. I called yesterday about one, and they said we didn't even start processing that tax return until February 21st. It didn't hit our system for approval till the 22nd. So please wait 3 weeks after that. If you don't get it within 3 weeks, you can call back. So that's pushing it out to the middle of March. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, trying to educate people on this. Get that out of your thinking that you're going to be getting that. And please don't go to those places that give you that loan. You pay a huge amount of money to borrow $1,200. The fees on that are $300 and $400 to do that. So please think that through. Just change your spending. Change your thinking on it. You're not going to get that refund till the middle of March. You haven't spent it. You won't be in trouble if you haven't spent it. Let's take our last break, Todd, and I'm going to come back and talk about IRS in the news and some things the IRS is doing. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes right here, WCAB 590 AM.
I get asked all the time, Gilbert, with 2017 already here, will your hair continue to look as fabulous as it looked in 2016? The answer is yes. How can I say that so confidently? Because I go to Robin at RSL Salon. Call Robin for an appointment, 289-9110, or call Emily at 447-3524. Whether it's hairstyling, manicures, or pedicures, it's always RSL Salon, because everyone deserves to look fabulous.
I want to welcome Tim Schlabach and Foothills Photo Works, a professional hybrid commercial photography studio. If you're concerned about your social media image, listen up. Whether you're an executive, real estate broker, lawyer, or business owner, your image matters now more than ever. And you know first impressions count. Whether you need professional portraits, corporate headshots, images of your products or facility, aerial photography, and videos of buildings, boats, or large acreage, affordable professional help is here for you. Foothills Photo Works can create media that will help your prospects get to know you better and help you look your best. Foothills Photo Works is located at 362 Charlotte Road in Rutherford, North Carolina, but you need to call for an appointment. That number is 828-668-2304. Mention this ad and receive 15% off your first session. That's 828-668-2304. Foothills Photo Works, your media professionals.
That might be it. We are back.
Yeah.
Gilbert Talks Taxes. Right here, WCAB 590 AM. We're technicians here. We're fixing this ship. We're keeping this ship from sinking while it's sailing. Okay, we're good to go. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes right here, WCAB 590 AM. We are back for this last section. So let me talk about those filing statistics, because I really think this is fascinating. I don't know, but as my wife tells people, the things my husband finds fascinating, I don't think anybody else would. So tax returns are down by over 10% so far to date, and this is through the end of February. This is IRS statistics. And for those of you that are just fascinated by this stuff, I know you're at home thinking, where can I get these statistics? You can go to irs.gov. irs.gov, G-O-V, the only official IRS website. Do not go to any other website. It is a fraudulent scam site. You want to go to irs.gov. So 2017, end of February. This same time last year, 58.3 million tax returns were filed. So far this year, to date, 52 million. That's over a 10% decrease. And it goes on. How many have they processed? They've been processing them. So far they're at a steady clip. They're about 2 million down on processing. Refunds issued refunds issued. It's pretty consistent, 11% decrease across the board for everything. So far to date, they have issued 38 billion. That's B with a billion. I'm sorry. They have issued 38 million refunds for a total dollar amount of 121 billion. Either I'm getting older or these fonts are getting smaller, Todd. It's one or the other. $121 billion, down from last year. There are 52 million refunds and $134 billion last year. The average, and the interesting thing is that the average refund is almost identical. $3,164 last year, $3,183 this year. So the refunds haven't changed. But what's important about all this is that the IRS, for many years, has been complaining about increased workflow, increased number of refunds, increased number of this. They need more money for computers, more money for staff, more money so they can have more money. Now, the trend seems to be reversing. And I know 1 year doesn't tell a trend, but it'll be interesting to see next year what happens. Next year, all of you out there sending me funny texts, please stop it. It's very distracting, but they are funny. No, I don't know if you can deduct the Harry Reid How to Get Rich in Real Estate box set CD. I really don't know if you can deduct that unless you have a real estate business. Okay, so there, I answered that question. So this is really getting back to this. We're seeing a decreased workflow, and it's interesting to see next year what's going to happen. But the reason I feel this is happening is because of these anti-ID theft measures they're taking. People are not filing these tax returns. They're not going to waste their time. They're not going to spend the money. Now, IRS in the news, listen up. If you have not filed, and believe it or not, I've gotten two. I got one last week and one this week. So this is not out there. So out there, I'm just turning my phone off. I'm not taking any more texts. This is not that out there. I've had two of these. The IRS announced that there are over $1 billion in refunds available to taxpayers who have not filed a 2013 federal tax return. Okay, why is this important? Because if you have not filed a 2013 tax return and you are due a refund, $1 billion worth, and you would think, who would not file a tax return to get a refund? Believe it or not, two people have showed up to my office within a week, and both of them are getting refunds. One of them, it's a pretty substantial refund. And I asked them, why have you not filed? And he said, I've just been busy. Just been busy. Okay, why? And it probably has been. But, been busy for 3 years? But, what's important to know is that if you have not filed a 2013 tax return and you're getting a refund, you must file that tax return to claim that refund by April 18th of 2017, this year, April 18th. Of course, the 15th falls on a weekend. The Monday is a holiday, the 17th, so it is the 18th this year to file that refund. Unless you filed an extension in 2013, and I really doubt that anybody who filed an extension did not file their tax return, but hey, it could happen. If you filed an extension, you have until October 15th to claim that refund. And probably if you've procrastinated that long, what's another 6 months? But if you haven't filed and you might be getting a refund, you may want to look at this. I actually had one last year that he just didn't get around to filing, came in to file his 2012. This was around June. Actually, he came in to file a few years worth. He just hadn't gotten around to it. He was busy. And he had a couple of $1,000 coming back to him, and they denied it because he was past the April 15th deadline. So if you have not filed, you may want to take a look at that. Another thing, let's say you filed and there was a mistake, and you can file an amendment to claim some additional money. The same rules apply there. You have until April 15th, again, April 18th this year, to file to amend a 2013 tax return. And I have some people at that time, they say, well, they forgot something. They forgot to give me a document or something, and there was some withholding. So we can amend and get them, a couple of $100, and they just forget. And I have to call them, and I keep reminding them, and they don't show up. Maybe, I don't know, a couple $100 isn't worth the time to them to come, but I don't know about you, Todd, but if the IRS owes it to me, I want it. Even if it is just a couple of $100. Hey, if you owe them $5, they'll claim it with interest and penalty. Okay? I just saw $5 turn into $10 due to North Carolina because of interest and penalty. And they will come after you for it. They will garnish your wages over it. I mean, they want their money. So please don't be casual with these people. Don't be casual with them at all. That was the big news that they were releasing this year. If you have any amended now, the other, and I'll finish with this, the other question people have is, I didn't file my tax return because it was a zero, and now the IRS is telling me they want me to file the tax return, but statute says you don't have to if it's zero. What's up with that? Okay, North Carolina wants you to file a tax return even if it is a zero. I don't know about any other states. I know that North Carolina wants to see a tax return even if it is zero, because when they look through their records, you will have filed a tax return. Their computer will look for your federal tax return to see if you filed one, and they will actually assess you non-filer, even though it's zero. So it's kind of a double-sided thing. The best thing to do is, unless you're in retirement, Social Security is your only income. If you're zero for whatever reason, it's for a lot of reasons. People didn't work. People were below threshold. People volunteered. Volunteering is working. You're just not getting paid for it. People do a lot of things. The IRS says you don't have to file, but let's say you are in an audit or you are in a whatever situation and they look at your records, they will want to see a zero return filed so that it kind of plugs that hole. And they don't have that hole when they look through your transcript history. They'll see, okay, a tax return's been filed. Because when they see a tax return hasn't been filed, now they have to find out why. So, and that's kind of been a thing. Lately, I'm seeing it more than before. So, even though you had zero, I would advise you, and you can do it yourself. I'm not telling you you got to come see somebody or see me, but file a zero return. Don't let it sit, because let's say, especially if you are going to go back to work, and this is a temporary thing, you had a 0 year, or you may have gotten some 1099s, even though it's a zero, their computer showing those 1099s, and the computer may look at it if a tax return doesn't get filed, and you'll get a letter, and you'll just say, well, it's a zero, and you'll throw the letter away. No, bad thing to throw letters from the IRS away. Trust me. You want to read them and you want to look at them. If you have any questions, Todd, that's it. My hour's over.
Yep.
Where did it go? I guess where it all goes. I could keep talking about this for another hour. No, Todd says he's got to go. Okay, this is Gilbert Talks Taxes.